Hi everybody, this is Lisa Twerski, and we're going to be talking today about Corona, couples, and coping. This isn't a self-care talk, it's really a couples care talk. During this time of health crisis, quarantine, and stress, many couples are reporting that their relationships are suffering. And in reality, there are probably two groups here, those who had a stable, fulfilling relationship and those who did not. Those with the stable, healthy, happy relationship are noticing that the strains and pressures that are going on are infiltrating even their relationship. And those with existing strife are noticing that their difficulties are intensifying and expanding. And for that reason, we're going to be talking about couples care. Now, what I wanted to do is I wanted to start by identifying the typical areas that cause couples struggle in general and now. And then I wanted to just go over 3 quick principles that I hope will be able to change things and get them either back on track or onto another track if things were already difficult beforehand. The first area that often comes up for couples when they're newly married and can continue as an area of strife throughout and might be coming up now is the area of relationship boundaries. Couple gets married and they come in with very different ideas about what relationship boundaries should be, and that might be the relationship boundaries between the two of us. I think that it's okay now that we're married to read your diary, and you think that that's horrifying. I think, or I'm comfortable sharing things very quickly, and you share different things at a different pace, or still share things with one of your parents that you haven't yet shared with me, and that might be feeling insulting to me. That relationship boundaries might be referring to the boundaries we think we have with each other, how close I get to you, but also how close I get to other people, how quickly I get close to you, or how much I think that I should have to do with other people. Our ideas about boundaries and relationship boundaries might be very different, and when they are, that can cause some stress in a relationship. And that might be coming up here as well in times of Corona. The other area, the next area that I wanted to touch on in terms of an area of struggle is the area of assumptions and expectations. Everyone comes into marriage with certain assumptions about what marriage will be like. If we're really a good couple, then we'll agree on everything. Or if you really care about me, then you'll want to make sure that I get what I wanted or needed or had to have. These are some of the typical assumptions that people might come into marriage that then when things are not exactly how they thought they were it can create stress. In terms of expectations, we all come in expecting that my role will be like this and your role will be like that, and what we do for a living will fit within a certain ideal, and what we do regarding parenting will be in line with each other and will be a certain way. It'll be, of course, the way I thought it would be. And these are some of the typical things that couples will stumble over and struggle with in the course of a marriage, and certainly now. Maybe I assumed that in the time of a strife or stress like we're having now, you would be the strong one and I would be able to lean on you, and I'm finding that I'm the strong one and you're kind of falling apart, and maybe that's destabilizing or stressful for us. Maybe I thought that of course you would understand that if the kids are home 24/7 that our roles were changed or that something would have to be altered, and you don't see it that way. So this is some of the examples of things that might come up in terms of assumptions and expectations that might become a struggle or maybe already have been a struggle. The third area that couples often have an issue with or have difficulties around is the area of decision making. And that might refer to the actual decision that is made. We don't agree on the decision that's to be made. And that might be rather that we actually agree on a particular decision, but I don't like or I'm uncomfortable with how it was made. Maybe I also think that, after everybody, I see my neighbors, they're inside and really, serious about quarantining for the last 4 weeks. And we're really serious about quarantining for the last 4 weeks. And maybe I would have agreed with you that the kids could play with their kids at this point. But when I find that they're just going out because my spouse said it was fine without discussing it, maybe that's the thing that's distressing me. Or maybe I wouldn't have agreed with the decision. So decision-making struggles come in a variety of flavors, so to speak. The actual decision or the process of the decision might be getting in our way at times. The fourth area, which is not necessarily an area that comes up all the time or is typical and usual, but might be coming up now in times of corona, is our stress management. How we each are finding that it's best for us to handle the situation. And I, let's say, for example, don't want to know a thing about the news. I don't want to hear much. I want to just know the bottom line and the bare minimum. And my spouse wants to watch every update and hear every new piece of information and every question that we don't really know the answer to, but that we're asking, and everything that might or might not be going on with the people we know and in the community around us. And that's how one of us copes with stress, and that's how the other one of us copes with stress. And when my spouse copes with stress with this information overload, let's say that I would see it as, and wants to discuss it with me, that might become an area. Or we might have different things that we need to do to de-stress that the other one doesn't agree with. So that could be another area that we need to examine or might be getting in our way. And when any of these things, either it's one or a couple or all of these areas, are something that we're struggling with, there are three basic principles that I can think of in trying to talk in a brief way about what we can do that would be really helpful. The first principle is to know yourself. So even though marriage is a time where marriage requires, I should say, a turning outwards, a focusing on the other, caring for the other, being interested in the other, attending to the other. The first thing that I always talk to people about when I talk about marriage is to know yourself, because your spouse can't read your mind. If I can't know myself and I can't know what I need and then express it in the right way, which we'll get to in a bit, then how is my spouse going to take care of me? How am I going to take care of my spouse if my spouse doesn't communicate to me what they need, what they would really want, what's really necessary for them to feel happy and whole? So even though marriage is an effort at turning outwards, we have to first look at ourselves and be really articulate with ourselves about what's upsetting. And that's really why I identified these typical areas that might be getting in our way. Because the first step in knowing yourself is trying to come up when you're feeling upset or stressed or overwhelmed by something that's going on in the relationship. First, try and name, what does this belong to? What area is this? Am I struggling because of a personal boundary difference between us? A personal boundary between my ideas and your ideas vis-a-vis other people? Am I struggling because I had an assumption that is not seeing its way through, an expectation that is not being met? Am I upset because of a decision that was made or how the decision was made? Am I struggling because your way is not my way for de-stressing in this time of difficulty? What is it? First, name what is going on for me so that I can be better able to tell you. Now, a lot of people will say, like, why? I already tried to say it, and I already tried to tell them, and I already tried to express myself. And that may be true. But often what we find is that it's the way and the how that can make all the difference in the world. So even though you think you've tried to express what you need before, still spend some time really calmly on your own, figuring out, what is this about? What's it made of? What part of which area of struggle is this? What is the distressing thing? And what would have to be different, or what could make me feel differently if something would change? What would the picture look like if I were happy? Instead of the decision being made this way, it would be made that way. Instead of me having to do this, you would understand and you would be pitching in to do that. What does it look like? What do I need? And what would it look like to fulfill that? Then the next principle that I would want to talk to you about is being curious rather than condemning. What I mean by that is that often we can be really judgmental about our differences. And first, we need to make sure that we're not condemning towards ourselves. We're not judgmental towards ourselves. We're not missing what we really need because we are judgmental about it. If I think that a good spouse wouldn't want to dafka go and take a walk with a friend at the end of the day, if her spouse says, hey, let's take a walk, and I think that that would be a not nice, not good, not right thing for me to need, then I'm not going to allow myself to know it. And I'm not going to really understand where my needs are. And our conversation and our fulfilling of making the relationship healthier and better for both of us is going to be limited because I'm not really knowing what I need and I therefore can't express it. So first, I need to be curious, really curious with myself so that I can be open to seeing exactly what it is that I need. And the next thing is, which can be more difficult, but is also really, really, really key here, is to be curious about your spouse and how they are different from you instead of condemning. Instead of seeing the difference that's distressing you and seeing this difference as bad, wrong, stupid, short-sighted, etc. See the difference as just a difference. We're different. You want to hear every news report, and I don't want to hear every news report. And it doesn't make you weird or crazy or backwards or not realizing, not recognizing. Everybody knows that you should minimize the amount of information that you take in. Be curious about that. I wonder what that's like. I wonder what that's about. And take that first in your imagination and say, how could a conversation go where I would ask about our difference, even if it's something that, or maybe especially if it's something that we've had some struggles over until now, how could I be curious about it and how could I express curiosity about it instead of blame or complaint or judgment? I'm wondering why you told the kids they could go out without discussing it. Is it that you think that, that's the rule? If the child asks me, like, what are the bounds to when you are, is it always, whichever parent gets asked, that's who could answer? Is it certain things that if one or the other of us gets asked, we, should feel free to answer without conferring, like you just didn't think about it and didn't realize or assume from something I said that I thought the same way, so you didn't feel the need. Before getting angry, get curious. Before getting condemning and just assuming this person was there to hurt you, or that the differences between us are ridiculous, be curious about it. Ask about it. What was going on? Why do you want so much information? You obviously do. And I can't relate. Explain to me what that is for you. You might hear, well, I feel so overwhelmed and so distressed. And when I get information, it makes me feel like, oh, okay, you're not crazy. Of course you're distressed. Of course you're overwhelmed. You're looking at it as, oh, why would you want so much information? It's so overwhelming. And I'm looking at it as, I'm already overwhelmed. Let me have some information so I can know why I feel this way. It's not making me overwhelmed. It's making me less crazy for feeling overwhelmed. So we might find out, oh, well, that could make total sense. And it may not make sense. But when we are curious about our differences, we are already closer, which is always helpful to stabilizing a relationship, but also we're a step closer to being able to manage our differences, whether they can be negotiated and we can both be, getting things the way we want, or they just have to be managed because some differences are just going to stay differences. When we're curious, we've opened a door to really working together. And that leads me to the third principle, which is putting the problem across the table. all too often, if my difference is with how you do something versus how I do something, or what you expect to have here versus what I expect to have here, then instead of seeing us as a team and we are going to tackle the problem, I see you as the problem, and I need now to tackle you. I have to tackle you and drag you across the table to my way of thinking. And you often think I have to tackle you and drag you across the table to my way of thinking. And this is always going to create some sort of strife in the couple. And even if we get to a good place, our process has often done some sort of damage along the way. And if we have the attitude or the perspective that, hey, let's sit on the same side of the table and see the issue, the difference, as the problem. It's our differences that are the problem. We're not a problem. It's that I manage my stress by not listening to almost anything. And you manage your stress by listening to everything and wanting to discuss it. And that's really causing us a problem because I can't take it and you feel like you want to share it. And now that I understand you, because I've been curious and I understand where you're coming from, and you understand me, you understand that the information actually creates the distress, and I understand that the information for you makes you feel less distressed because it makes you feel normal in the distress you already have, I can maybe be more open, more generous, more kind in how I look at what we can do about the fact that I need something very different than you. Now that I'm not judgmental, I can say, maybe I can be open to having a set amount of time that we discuss this. Maybe you can be mindful that if it's a particularly stressful day with the kids, it's not something to ask that we take that time to have a conversation. Maybe you have the conversation with somebody else that day. And so we have the possibility of really tackling the problem in a way that doesn't create damage to the relationship when we've known ourselves, know what something means to us, know what we need, are able to be curious about our spouse and why they need what they need when it's different than what we need. And when we sit next to each other and we look at the problem as something to tackle, again, it deepens that closeness. Now not only are we close because I've been curious and I've gotten to know you better, but now we've addressed something together. When I know you and you know me and we've worked on something together, that's going to create closeness and stability in our marriage, even through difficult times. We have each other, and that will be a stabilizing factor. And of course, it's always good, even if it's difficult in these times, to try and figure out how to infuse and create positive experiences with each other. To mindfully not just say, oh, we've spent the whole day together, so we don't need any together time, but has been positive together time? Has it been meaningful together time? Has it been significant together time? Have we worked on something together? Hopefully you'll work on your strifes and stresses together, but even more hopefully, if you've done that and things are sort of cruising along in a positive way, you'll want to figure out how to work on something positive together, how to work on your relationship in a good way, not just on a how do we get rid of difficulties way. So those are my tips. And I hope everyone good health, physically and emotionally, in their marriage and in their families. And good luck on tackling your stresses and being in a good place.
Thank you very much for a fine presentation. This is Rabbi Dr. David Fox of Chai Lifeline's Crisis Intervention, Trauma, and Bereavement Department. Please feel free at any time to access our crisis hotline at 1-855-3-CRISIS, and you may also email us at crisis@chailifeline.org. Looking forward to providing you with another installment in our ongoing series entitled Going Through It and Growing Through It.